And since I was last, I looked at the board minutes. I didn't put them together a nice PowerPoint or anything. I thought we'd just make this short and sweet. If you have any questions?
We like it.
But yeah. Enjoy the weather before it gets cold, huh? Basically, this year we had to rewrite the whole wellness policy. Have you guys heard of the Smart Snacks in Schools standards, the new Smart Snacks in Schools? It was through reauthorization, and it's changed in a lot of things that we're going to have to do starting next year. So we had to rewrite our wellness program to show that we are actually going to do what we're supposed to do. One of the things that I feel that we do in Garden City, or that we are doing better every year, is promoting wellness. I think we've made a lot of strides since we first developed the policy in 2006. By no means do we want to go backwards, we want to continue to go forwards. So if you look through it, there's 3 components to the wellness program. There's the nutrition, physical education, and then classroom education. So under the nutrition, I am pretty confident to say that we follow the rules and we follow the standards when we're serving our meals, as we're preparing our meals, our production records. Breakfast is going to change just a little bit, but not much. Actually, with the new breakfast standards, they've taken out protein as one of the components, which really floors me. Through arguments and lobbying, we can now count a protein as a bread. Don't ask me why. So we can continue to serve protein, but we have to count it as a bread underneath our production records. So that really, as a dietitian and a nutritionist, I don't like that, because I feel that if we carb load our kids, they're going to crash like at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we are doing a pilot study at Kenneth Henderson. We're just going to have 1 week cycle menu, and where it's basically we're taking out everything, all the pre-sweetened stuff, the pancakes, the waffles, the funnel cakes. Actually, we're not serving the funnel cakes anymore. And we're taking syrup off the menu. So basically, we're doing like we're going to have a yogurt parfait one day, breakfast pizza, the lumberjack sticks. So basically, we're trying to add protein, make it a more balanced meal. So we'll see how that goes. Paige, staff, they're really proactive. There's some teachers in there that are really excited to help with this too. We're also going to pilot like a grab-and-go breakfast at Kenneth Henderson that hopefully we'll get more kids eating. Because at that age, they come in and it's funny, you walk in the cafeteria and they have their head down on the table. They're sleeping. They're not interested in eating, but maybe after first, maybe after they get into the classroom, maybe we'll get some more participation. So that's the world of nutrition. If you're interested, on page 3, this is all the standards that we have to follow. Lots of fun times. The one thing in the Smart School standards is the school day. The school day in the USDA's mind starts at midnight and goes 30 minutes after the bell rings. Nothing's really changed. Classroom rewards. We discussed this. I'm just going to read it. Food rewards or incentives are discouraged in the classroom or other parts of the buildings to encourage student achievement or desired behaviors. The exception would be if the student had an individual education plan that includes how food rewards are used. And some schools are better than other schools, but you go in and everybody wants to be nice, right? Even Dr. Atha, he likes, when the sped students come in, he likes to be nice to them. But if I would set a candy jar in front of every one of your guys' desk right here, and I go through and I go visit Jean, I eat a piece of candy, I go visit Mark, I eat a piece of candy. By the time I get to Dr. Atha, I could have consumed 200 calories, just mindlessly, just because I'm eating out that candy jar. Now, am I going to be the food police or the candy police and say, oh my gosh, you can't have that? Yeah, we just want our staff and our teachers to be mindful of what they are, and what, even though they're not trying to sabotage anybody or anybody's diet, we want them to be mindful. So if we go into a school where everybody has a candy jar and they're rewarding every student with candy, then I think that's going to be one of those moments where we're going to have to step aside and maybe have a conversation on, or what are we doing. Classroom snacks, that hasn't changed. Birthday parties, I think Dr. Atha wanted me to touch on this. Birthday parties and outside foods that are brought into the school, this had changed, boy, was it 2007 probably? And it actually came about because of a food safety issue. It was a really bad year for us as far as maybe some food coming in to birthday parties that wasn't safe to eat. And we also had a staff potluck that people actually went to the hospital because they got sick. So that came about, but it's well accepted. Once in a while we'll have a glitch, and we'll get a phone call, but I think that's pretty much well accepted, and that's part of our culture now. Fundraising. This is where it gets pretty tricky. During the school day, I'm just going to read this, one exempt fundraiser per school sponsor organization per semester that does not meet the nutrition standards for all foods sold in schools during the school day on school grounds will be allowed. So what this means is fundraising. During the school day, anything that is sold on the property has to meet the standards. So if we can't serve it in the cafeteria, it cannot be sold. So I'm thinking like Red Will. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Red Will, the breads, not one thing that you sell in Red Will would meet the fundraiser policy. Okay?
Chocolate bars.
Chocolate bars, absolutely not. Like the ones that the band sells, no, they will not, they do not meet the standards. So there are a lot of fundraisers out there. The principals have been really good about getting me what they're doing. So what I am doing is kind of going school by school to tell them what would be acceptable, what is not. Now there's one exempt fundraiser, not like the candy bars, okay? It's a student group, not a PTO, right? It's a band. So if the band is going to sell chocolate bars, they can fill out an exemption form, which we don't have yet because they haven't published it. But they can fill out an exemption form, and they have 2 days they can sell their candy bars. So they can have 2 days in the fall semester and then 2 days in the spring semester. Okay, so that would be an exemption. Now, if you have a PTO that was selling candy bars or an outside group that wasn't a student-driven group, they cannot do that. They would have to wait till 30 minutes after the school day to do that. So if the band sells candy bars, basically if they're going to extend it for a long period of time, they just have to take their sales outside the school day. Does that make sense?
So 30 minutes after, if it's in a snack bar at the football stadium.
That's fine. And that's another thing where it gets tricky, especially for the junior high and middle school, because we have we have track meets that go on during the school days. So basically what this is saying is that anything that's sold in that concession stand during the school, at that track meet has to meet requirements. So no pop, no soda, nachos would be out. Now there are things that we can do. We could do like hamburgers, hot dogs, and those type of things. But no candy until 30 minutes after the school day.
On that fundraiser though, like say the band does it, can the orchestra do?
It's per organization. So we're gonna have, I don't see that changing. It's gonna scale down at the high school. I think the high school is gonna be our biggest piece because because students have the money, they have the disposable income, and so they are buying those candy bars at school. I know my kids do that. That's one of the issues. We're gonna have to move that outside of the school day, or maybe suggest other fundraisers. So, yeah.
And
This is
Tracy,
gonna
where's
be
this
something.
coming from?
What?
Where's this coming from?
This is coming from the USDA. This is the USDA regulations from the Smart Snacks in Schools. So basically follow it. If we don't, then they start looking at our funding. The one thing that they have done is before, if let's say that we weren't following policy, they came in to do a review, they're finding that we're doing something wrong, the monetary, it would come out of my account, it would come out of the nutrition service funds. We would be the ones to be fined. Now they're saying that they will go to the schools and find the schools. If the certain school, like let's say all of our schools are doing great, but Edith Sherman, they're not getting on the bandwagon. They came in to do a review and they find out they're selling suckers right after school. Then the repercussion would go off on Edith Sherman, not on nutrition services. I'm not for sure how all that's going to work, and I don't know how they're going to catch us. But I'm here to help the principals, and so I have a big stake in this. So we're going to try to get the word out, and if there's any questions, or if you guys hear anything in the public, you can refer them. Please refer them to me.
Yeah.
Does this affect our staff, for instance, if a group of teachers on staff is
as long as like, and that's a very good question. As long as the food, like, and sometimes like in the break rooms you have food. Now this, as long as the students don't have access to that, then it does not affect them. The one thing it does, like if you wanted to have a meeting afterwards and bring cookies, that's fine, as long as students are present. I mean, as long as there's no money exchange, it's like fundraisers, okay? So if, let me back up. The other part of this rule is if I wanted to order pizza for my class, I cannot have that pizza delivered to the school because there's going to be that exchange of money. And that pizza, unless it's Pizza Hut pizza that meets the standards, if it doesn't meet the standards, we cannot exchange money. We cannot purchase that on school ground during school day. Okay? Does that make sense?
Wait 30 minutes after.
You have to wait 30 minutes after. Okay, but if the teacher wanted to take her planning time or take her lunchtime and go and run and get the pizza, bring it back to school, she could, because no money is being exchanged on school property. Same thing with teachers, like if they wanted to order from Wards delivers, right? If they deliver and that money is changed, then that's illegal. But if they go and pick up Wards and bring it back to the school, that's fine.
Now, charge account of
What if I wanted to sponsor a pizza party and I bought the pizza?
Then there's no money, so you go
All
for
the
it.
pizza you have.
All the pizza you have, I'll just tell all the schools that. Alex is.
Just based on what you said, is there a special version of Pizza Hut pizza that's
There is.
acceptable to the schools and some of it isn't and some of it
Yes.
is?
Pizza Hut is actually the only pizza vendor, and I think Domino's has a pizza out now that meets the standards. Basically, they have the 51% whole grain crust, and their sodium level, they took their sodium level from a piece of pizza to 12 to 1400 down to 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium. We can only get at school. That's the Pizza Hut that we serve at high school.
Is there a term for this? Is it just available to schools?
It's just available to schools. It's a special market. So and actually we had a taste testing with the cross country club last year, and they preferred it better than the regular pizza. So it's actually pretty good, and it's a thinner crust. Any other questions on fundraising? General guidelines for nutrition and education. This has not changed much with Common Core. It has changed how much nutrition education the kids are getting in the classroom, which kind of concerns me. But what I'm going to do in the cafeteria, we're going to have, each month, we're going to have teachable moments. Like the first month will be the food pyramid. Then I'll send out talking points to the teachers, so hopefully maybe they'll pick up on that and kind of say, okay, this is what is in the cafeteria. What are we learning from there? Staff wellness, of course, we're all into that. Physical education, that has not changed much. The PE instructors are starting, there's FitnessGram. Do you guys know what FitnessGram is? It's basically when they do the pacer test, flexibility, and there's some other tests that goes along with it. Now the state is going to start requiring us to enter this at certain grade levels, and it's going to be part of the kids program. So if I have a child that comes to school in Garden City, he does the pacer in the spring semester, or in the fall semester, he goes to Dodge City in the spring, that information will go over with him. So it also includes their height, weight, and BMI too. So it's going to be a helpful way to track the students.
What do they use that information for?
What do they use that information for? I think just to track progress. I don't know any specific, for segregated data. They will use it for as far as obesity, the BMI, the population of Kansas, But as far as the other one, I think it's just to see the kids' progress through years.
We'll do that every year. You say certain grades.
And don't quote me on this, but I believe it's the 3rd grade, the 6th grade, and the 9th grade. So that are actually recorded. All of it's recorded, but when they go to pull out data, like as far as obesity rates and stuff, then we just use those 3 grades.
So if a student comes from another state, they might not get tested till
Yeah,
that
right.
time.
And then when they did get tested, their information would be included into the kids' system. And our instructors have been trained, and so they're ready to go for that. The other thing is punishment, and we've had great discussions about punishment. Withholding participation in physical education class, recess, or other physical activity opportunities as a form of discipline is strongly discouraged. So we're discouraging, like a teacher holding in a child for not doing his homework or for whatever reason from going outside for recess. Now, if it's a one-time deal, okay, but if it's happening on a regular basis, or if a principal sees a teacher's holding a kid in all the time, or if it's the same child, then that's when we're going to start talking and say, okay, is this the right discipline for this child? Maybe that child does need to go out and run. I know if you held my kid in, I mean, you would be wanting him to get out the door and run and expend some of that energy. So we're going to be visiting with the principals about that. Physical activity will not be used as punishment, and that means like making students run laps or do push-ups. And this is just in the classroom. This is not like at athletic practice. They can make them do all the push-ups and bench swings if they want. So this is just during the school day in the classroom. And actually, that is pretty much the changes and the highlights. I have included some hopefully helpful hints for teachers and principals to use beyond non-kiddos award and other forms of punishment other than withholding your child from recess. Do you have any questions?
Can you give me an example of other forms of punishment?
Other forms of
I
punishment?
mean, if the kids, if you don't quit, you're not gonna be able to go outside on fun day, Now you're saying you can act up because we gotta send you out there. So what is the teacher supposed to do?
Well, I don't know. No, I think they need to look at the kid, and every situation is different. If you know that kid is dying to go out and fun, some kids don't want to go out for recess, so they're gonna act up because they'd rather stay in or whatnot. If you have a kid that's really gun-ho into recess, maybe that say, hey, you may lose you may lose your fun day privileges. So there are, they have charts, and I'm not a teacher, so I don't know, because I know there are other ways to, my child, I think the teacher has to know the child and has to know what is important to the child.
Tim, I think the thing we're looking at there is, anytime we discipline a student, the intention is not to punish the kid really, but to help the kid change their behavior. So if we're withholding recess from a kid over and over and over again, it's probably not being effective at changing his behavior. So maybe we need to look at some other course. But if we have a situation where, like my kid, he doesn't turn his homework in one day, so he misses recess in September. Well, in October, he's talking back to the teacher, so he misses another recess that day. But then it corrects his behavior. The homework starts coming in, he's respectful in class. That's not the issue that we're talking about. The issue we're talking about is if the kid never gets to go out for recess because he's always in trouble and it's the same kind of thing over and over again. So that's what we're trying to get a handle on. And I don't think that happens a lot, but we don't want to routinely deny that. Then we need to find other ways to discipline the student.
Basically, you're denying physical education, and in some kids, you're compounding the problem and by not giving them a release.
And that's another thing as far as physical, and I'm really strongly against teachers holding their kids out from physical education classes, because it is a class. And so how would the English teacher like for the physical education teacher say, hey, this kid didn't finish his pacer test, he has to stay, he's gonna miss part of your English class. So I feel physical education is just as important as reading, writing, and arithmetic. I might be a little bit out there, but I feel strongly about it. So. Any other questions?
I do have a question. I know at the elementary school level, we have recess for students, and so pretty much most of them get out during the school day. But at the higher levels in middle school and high school, we have really only limited numbers of PE that's required, and then we have so many choices for them that are available, I think maybe they don't get the opportunity to do those things at those other levels.
And that is very true. At the elementary level, we actually meet the basic level at most of the schools. At the intermediate centers, we do good. The middle school and the high school, we fail. It has prevented us, there's a thing called the Hushko Award, and basically it's an award that if you are meeting all the criteria to make your school healthier, you get the award. Well, we received all the awards for the elementary and the intermediate centers, but we fail in PE in the middle school and high school. I can't even apply for the award because we fail in the minutes that all students get because they can elect out of PE.
Well,
And the things are going against PE.
I know in the high school in the past, and I thought we had continued it, we had more of an intramural type activity where it was, if you weren't part of a specific athletic team, which there's really only a limited number of students that can participate in that, there were other teams that they could participate in sports. Do we have, I don't know if that's still going on, I believe it is.
Still
I think
but I
they
don't
still
think
going.
that can count.
Right, because it's outside of the school
Outside the
day.
school day.
Do we
And
have
the kids that
anything
are
like
involved
that?
in athletics don't count.
Right. And because, yeah, Kim Costa still does the intramural program. So she still is offering the intramural program.
Do we do it at the middle school level though, which is kind of a more pivotal level of whether you want to keep moving and doing things like that, or whether,
We don't do intramurals like we do at the high school, but I believe they do what they call an instructional league, so, that way, maybe kids who go out for a sport who might not be on the top group still get an opportunity to participate, they get instruction in the fundamentals of the activity, and I think we do that in girls and boys basketball,
Volleyball.
Volleyball.
Soccer too.
and soccer, I believe.
so there's some additional opportunities.
The one thing the conversation that I've had with the middle school coaches, they're very passionate about sports, not about sports, about getting kids active. The one thing is transportation. Kids active, when they stay home stay after school, a lot of them don't have that transportation home. So that's one reason why they don't, number one, they don't go out for sports. Number two, they can't even take advantage of the instructional part of piece of it. So, they are looking at different ways and trying to get more physical activity outside and inside the school day.
Why is that not accountable to kids who participate in sports?
Because it's not considered physical education. It's considered extracurricular.
Curricular activities.
Or extracurricular, co-curricular case.
Is that-
Never been able to count it, so even though we have high participation at the middle school in athletics and in the instructional league, and high participation in athletics at the high school and intramural, she cannot apply those kids and those numbers toward that award. It has to be in a physical education class that's
Has
offered
been a
during
structured
the school
classroom
day.
during the school day.
Is that a federal guideline or,
It's a USDA guideline.
because I know when you cross the state line in Oklahoma, varsity athletics are considered a physical education. You can include it in the school hours.
If it's an extracurricular, if it's outside the school hours, it's not counted.
You have like Oklahoma.
It's,
Oh, yeah, you'll never get it through.
yeah, Kansas is a beast in itself occasion, but.
If you went with say we went to a 7-period day, and we had seventh-hour athletics, and we gave the kids a phys ed credit, physical education credit for that, you could count it.
Yeah, we can count it if they got a credit. If it was during the school day.
Again.
But then you reduce the number of courses a kid can take during their academic day as well. So you get credit on one end, but you take opportunities away on the other.
I would love to have a block in every single physical education. Is there every day?
Are you lobbying?
I am lobbying.
In Tracy land.
Yeah, well,
All right.
do you have any other questions or anything?
Dr. Did you want to make any comments on any other policies?
No, I think they're pretty much, wording changes, other than the drug policy, you might pay attention to
Thank you,
it.
Tracy.
Specifically, the drug policy says that you review or evaluate that policy every other year, but the new version is saying you do it periodic, so you don't have to evaluate it every year. So I am recommending that you approve all of these policies as presented. But in the meantime, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Otherwise, I'll be on the consent agenda for next week.
All right. Any board open discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, if there are things, regulatory restrictions on what you count and what, the way we count things, and there's a possibility of making some changes, we really should forward that to the appropriate authorities and let them know our experience. I remember it's about a year or two ago, we had some other experiences that we kind of forwarded back up the chain, and there were some changes made based on that. So I think, when we can, we should try to do that.
Are you speaking of graduation rates and things like that?
I think it was in reference to that, but, it really is ridiculous to say a protein is bread. And we should be counting, athletics that the students engage in, and we shouldn't be looking at just the minutia of the regulation, or the overall activity that our students are doing, so, and try to get the regulation to conform to what makes sense for our students.
I just wanted to say too, we had a great discussion on cell phones today, and I think it's great that we can all share our opinions openly and feel comfortable doing so, and I'm proud of us for doing that. So we'll move forward as a group, all on the same page, and anyway, thank you for your candidates. Any other discussion items? Yes.
Since the last time we met, a group went to Orlando to present. And although you may have heard about some transportation issues getting there and returning, the group did a great job presenting to a national audience. They had a tremendous response. They represented this district very well, not only the presenters, but the others as well, putting in a large number of hours before the meeting started, after the meeting started, after the meeting was at the end of the day. And we will bring a presentation to you August 11th about the conference. But I wanted to put in a good word for the participants, because they really did a tremendous job.
Great, thank you.
Just to add on that a little bit, at one time, we thought we would not have 7 out of the 8 presenters there because of transportation issues. I just want you to know, the presentation was really about, as you know, what we're doing in this district. We had 7 teachers that stepped up and was going, being groomed and prepared to step in and give that presentation if those folks had arrived.
On one-day notice.
On 1 day notice.
Wow.
So,
Great.
the presentation was going to go on no matter what. And that speaks highly of our teachers and the staff that we had with us at that time.
Great, well, thank you. Okay, the next Board of Education meeting will take place on Monday, July 28th at 6 o'clock in this boardroom. And as far as I know, Laura will not be attending that meeting, and Mark will not. Okay. All right, with that being said,
We don't need to vote on those policies? No?
no, those are just up, this is our first exposure to those, so we'll vote on them next time.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great.
Thought I missed something.
Good clarification. You're in voting mode today. Yeah. All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'm gonna give